Good afternoon. What's going on? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Rants with Ray. My name is Raynice Mitchell, and I'm here because I have a message for you all. Um, this, as you can see from the thumbnail and the title, this message is going to be one of those ones. It's going to be one of those ones. I don't know who you are, but you are very important to God. You really are. Because I was not going to get on here today because I was in my own little mood. And honestly, I'm feeling like it's not just me. And I do want to say this. I always, no matter what I have going on in my personal life, I always try to make sure that my own personal um, circumstances doesn't leak into the message, or I always make sure a message that's for me, that's just for me. I'm not putting it out for y'all or giving you guys a message that is convoluted by the different experiences in my real life. So I always try to make sure that I go to God and pray and ask for the direct message for the video, um, and make sure it's not convoluted with my own issues. But I feel led to tell you guys, kind of just give you some insight, because God is saying that a lot of you guys are going through the same things. And mainly what I was getting was, like, all this week, it's like God has been doing work on our heart, doing surgery on our heart and our heart posture. And I thought that I was good, but honestly, with the different things that God has been um, allowing me to experience and allowing me to have revelation on, it's been showing me that I still have parts deep in my heart where I'm angry with God, or I feel disappointed in God, or feel like I can't trust God because I feel like he hasn't shown up in the way that I felt like he should have. And of course, those things aren't true, but those are the things that are in the deep, darkest places of my heart. And God has been revealing those spaces of my heart to me, not to condemn me or ridicule me, but to be able to show me those dark parts of myself so I can do the inner work and heal and denounce those things, and ask God, repent, ask God for forgiveness. And because it's one, we're supposed to feel our emotions, right? That's why they are there. So you're supposed to have emotions. You're supposed to feel those emotions so you can be able to understand them. But see, the problem comes when we hold on to those emotions, and then that emotion becomes a mood, and that mood becomes a part of your personality, and then that therefore becomes a character trait, and then it's embedded in you. So when you go to sleep with a emotion and a feeling, that's when you mess up, and you can put yourself out of alignment with God, because what God was sharing with me is anger and frustration clouds our vision, and it places us in a space of darkness. And it brought me to the story of Jonah. Just really quick. Well, today I was reading the first two pages in the book of Joshua, and then Deuteronomy, like the last few pages of Deuteronomy, and then some chapter 20 in Numbers. Mainly had me focusing on Moses today and Joshua, but mainly Moses. But anyway, before I get into that, um, when we are consumed with anger and frustration, it can place us in a space of darkness. And it brought me to Jonah. And I had Googled something, and God wanted me to read it with you all. Yet another example of someone with anger issues is Jonah. God had sent Jonah to warn the people of Nineveh, his people's mortal enemies, that God was going to destroy them for their sins. But when God accepted Nineveh's pleas and spared them, Jonah lost his temper, got mad at God, and ran away. Um, and if you don't know the story of Jonah, Jonah ran away because he didn't want to warn the people of Nineveh in the first place, and he hopped on a ship and ended up, the ship was about to wreck, and because it was like a horrible storm coming and the ship was gonna like flood, and then they ended up throwing him off the boat because I don't want to go too deep into the story. You guys got to go and read it in the Bible. It's super good. But they ended up throwing Jonah off of the boat, and God sent a whale to come and swallow Jonah up. And Jonah was in the body of the whale, in the stomach of the whale for 3 days. And basically, God was saying to me that further exemplifies how being consumed by anger and frustration, and being led by anger and frustration, can place us in a space of darkness where not only can we not see, but we will be disconnected from everything, everyone, and God when you are angry. So you have to be able to allow yourself to calm down so you can be able to hear God clearly on what to do next. And it's important to acknowledge the anger. Now, I will say sometimes you may not even know that anger exists inside of you, because I can say for myself, I didn't feel like I was really mad at God, but God is this week has been showing me a lot about myself, and just showing me how if certain situations can trigger these emotions out of you, it's not the situation that is triggering these emotions. I mean, that's making you have these emotions. These emotions were already there, and this situation is making those emotions come to the surface. So it's important to just acknowledge where you may see anger in yourself, and cut it at the root. Ask for, just pray. That's what I was doing today in the midst of me being angry or just feeling not like myself. I had to really pray and ask God for guidance, ask God to grant me the spirit of peace, of stillness, of calmness, and really just talking and speaking life into myself. So some of you, if you are dealing with that, whenever you're going through a moment of frustration, speak life over yourself. Like, I am safe. I am divinely provided for. Everything always works out for me. I am always protected. Like, those are just some examples of different things that you can say to, pull yourself back to the presence of God. So, I want to go to the book of Numbers, chapter 20. And we're going to talk about Moses. Okay, you guys? Moses. And God was giving me so many messages with this story right here. And basically, in chapter 20, Moses, God, you know what? Let me just read some of the verses. Then came the children of Israel, even the whole congregation, into the desert of Zin in the first month. And the people abode in Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there. Now, basically, God had brought the children of Israel into the desert of the wilderness. After he saved them out of Egypt, he brought them into the wilderness. Now, they were in the wilderness, and there was no water. And the people had ended up like coming up against Moses. They ended up coming up against Moses and Aaron, and was basically going to try to kill them or attack them. And I'll read the exact verse. It's chapter 20. We're in the book of Numbers, chapter 20, verse 2. And there was no water for the congregation, and they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron. And I'm going to skip down to, I'm going to read verse 3, 4, and 5. And the people chode with Moses and spake, saying, Would God that we had died when our brethren died before the Lord? And why have ye brought up the congregation of the Lord into the wilderness, that we and and our cattle should die there. So, and wherefore have ye made us to come up out of Egypt to bring us into this evil place? It is no place of seed or of figs or of vines or of pomegranates, neither is there any water to drink. And Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they fell upon their faces, and the glory of the Lord appeared unto them. Now, before I keep moving forward, that was verses 2 through 6. And basically, God is saying that the people ended up getting upset with them because they felt like, dang, you done took us out of slavery. Now we about to starve to death. And a lot of you can be feeling like deep in your hearts, you may be in your own wilderness or season of isolation. And you may feel like, dang, ever since I started following God, my life has been falling apart, or everything hasn't been working, or it's like I've been losing everything since you feel like you started following God. And some of you may feel like all the things that you stopped doing were, maybe not of God all the way, but at least you were not, just completely. I'm hearing in my spirit that for some of you, struggling or financially or mentally or emotionally in whatever, capacity that may apply to each individual, you feel like you left from wherever you were at, whether that be a physical place, a relationship, or a mindset. God is saying you're saying you left that and you've come to this new place of wherever God has brought you, and you feel like you've been in a wilderness. Things haven't been working. It's been a lot of trial and error and tribulation. It's been a lot of obstacles, and I feel like you are aware that it's made you angry with God. But what I'm getting is some of you have, prayed about it, asked for repentance, and thought that you were good. But God is saying in the deeper, darker parts of your heart, you're still angry. And it's important for you to acknowledge that so God can heal that. Share your truth with God, because God knows how we feel anyway. So it's just like, why not go ahead and surrender and submit and admit it to yourself, because God already knows. But you're going to admit it out loud, acknowledge it. Because when you acknowledge something, you therefore nullify the attacks or the further consummation of you. So basically, I'm going to go down to verse 8, where it says, take the rod and gather thou assembly together, and Aaron thy brother, and speak ye unto the rock before their eyes, and it shall give forth his water, and thou shalt bring forth to them water out of the rock. So thou shalt give the congregation and their beast drink. And Moses took the rod from before the Lord as he commanded, and Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation together before the rock, and he said unto them, hear now, ye rebels, must we fetch you water out of this rock? And Moses lifted up his hand with his rod, and he smote the rock twice, and the water came out abundantly. And the congregation drank, and their beasts also. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron. This is the King's James version, so it's like in that art thou kind of thing, you guys. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, because ye believed me not, to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel, before ye shall not bring this congregation into the land which I have given them. This is the water of Meribah, because of the children of Israel strove with the Lord, and he was sanctified in them. Okay, so basically, what God was giving me about that was Moses, because I couldn't understand that story. Moses was angry though. Moses was angry, which was why instead of speaking to the rock, he struck the rock twice. because at that point, he had the pressure of the congregation on him repeatedly, even after they had saw all of these miracles that God had did for these people when he was taking them out of Egypt from all the plagues, all the wonders and signs. It was kind of at this point like, dang, y'all done seen the whole ocean split in half for y'all. Do you really think that God is going to bring you to the wilderness and leave you and let you starve to death after bringing you through all of that? And I think, not even I think, what God has given me is Moses was frustrated with the people, the congregation and the people of Israel, because they were ready to attack, like they had forgot everything that had taken place up until this point. And God told Moses to speak to the rock, not to strike the rock twice. And he striked it out of anger. And what God is saying, the correlation to that story and ourselves, we anger and frustration can cause us to strike our blessings. It can cause us uh, to attack our own future, because now, because Moses had struck the rock twice instead of speaking to it, not only did he cancel out the whole children of Israel, that group of people, he also canceled out himself. And he allowed a moment of frustration to, like, basically ruin the plans that God had for him. And a lot of times we can do that same thing in our own lives, because he wasn't able to pass the Jordan into into the promised land. Him and all of the children of Israel at that time, like the grown-ups, they could not go. So basically God allowed the offspring of those people to go, but not those people, because well, I'll go into my next point in a second, but he didn't allow them to go. Literally, Moses' frustration overtaking him blocked him from reaching the promised land. It blocked his entryway. God would not allow him or those people in the promised land, because they were going to spoil it with their mindset, with the posture of their heart. Their heart was already too they had already hardened their heart so much, to the point where whenever God didn't perform for them at the first sign of an obstacle, they were ready to denounce God, or to just go back, to revert back to their ways. And um God is saying he doesn't want us to block our own blessings by cursing ourselves in moments of frustration, or in moments of anger, or not acknowledging the anger and frustration and bitterness and resentment that we have residing in the deepest parts of our hearts. So it's important to make sure you're going to God and you're checking your heart and you're praying and asking God to show you anything in you that needs to be removed, that needs to die, that you need to pray against, because a lot of us have some underlying frustration and anger with the journey, with ourselves, with the people in our lives. And God is saying it's time to let that go, so he can do a new thing in you and in your life. And he wanted me to read something from Google as well. It says, the rock produced water for the people to drink, but Moses had disobeyed God's directions. Moses sinned against God by trusting in his own ability and his own plan to give the people water. Because of their sin, God did not allow Moses and Aaron to lead the Israelites into the promised land. And I want to read something else too. Okay, because it says, why did Moses strike the rock twice? Hitting it not just once, but twice was in effect making a statement. I am doing this merely of my own power and can do it anywhere I like. Whereas the truth was that God was leading him to the right places. It wasn't just Moses picking any old rock that he pleased and striking it. a lot of times, in the midst of our anger and frustration, we can have arrogance. Because remember, anger and frustration is going to blind your vision. So it's going to be hard for you to hear, see, or act properly when you need to, because you're blinded by your emotions. So it's important to not allow ourselves to block ourselves, because a lot of the times we think that it's something or someone outside of us, and a lot of times it's because of the darkness that we have inside of us. And God is saying, check the parts of your heart, because some of us have anger, frustration, resentment, spitefulness, bitterness lying in the deep, and it's time for us to allow God in to let it go. And yeah, that's the main message of that's the meat in this message. Allow God in so he can shine light on the dark places within, so you can release and let go and allow God's spirit to overtake you, and to bless you, bless you with the spirit of peace, bless you with the spirit of happiness, expectancy, gratitude, all those things. And I want to say also, what America? Well, you know what? No, I'll make a separate video. Allow God in, cleanse out your heart, be open so you can be able to hear effectively, and just keep an open mind. So I hope you guys enjoyed this message just as much as me, and I love y'all, but God loves you so much more. I'm going to get back on here in a second. But yes, again, I hope you guys enjoyed this message. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.